Western Mass News 11 at 11.
It's been more than a week since a shooting inside of a Springfield High School that left many wondering just how safe are kids inside that school. Good Tuesday evening. Welcome to Western Mass News 11 at 11. I'm Chris Pisano. Tonight, local leaders met to discuss many of the safety protocols now in place. The conversation coming on the heels of a major development in the case. Western Mass News reporter Maria Wilson joining us live with more on that latest development and what city leaders are saying about it. Maria.
That's right, Chris. Just hours before tonight's Public Safety Committee, Springfield Police arresting a second suspect in connection with last week's shooting. And while police are still looking for the suspect's son, who they also believe is involved, city leaders want to make sure that they are doing enough to prevent another incident like this from occurring.
It's been more than a week since a disturbance inside Springfield's High School of Science and Technology ended in a gunshot.
I was low-key kind of scared that there was a gun in the building and anything could have happened.
Police say a group of 3 adults pushed their way inside the school. One had a gun, another had a knife. 2 of those suspects already in police custody.
I didn't know if my friends, my family members were all right. Like, it shook me a little bit.
And while no one was shot or seriously hurt that day, the incident bringing the topic of school safety to the forefront.
It's not the end of the conversation because we want to make sure our schools are safe.
In addition to more counselors, Junior Julius Lowe Wanamaker says things have been different at school in the days since the altercation.
We did have a lot of police officers inside the building, and we saw a lot of cop cars. We had a lot more security inside the building.
But some are wondering if that's enough to keep students safe.
What are we doing in that area to make it safer for the kids in the school?
Representatives from both Springfield Police and the district's safety and security team fielded questions from city leaders about the issue of safety.
We do as much, if not more, than any school district in the country. We've invested millions upon millions of dollars in the past 10 years with our safety protocols.
Adam Fenn is from the district's security and safety department, and he says a lot goes into keeping students safe, from emergency camera surveillance systems to police presence, and even a newly implemented artificial intelligence weapon detection system.
Every single activation, every single beep, every single person that beeps is getting searched.
We asked Lowe Wanamaker what he hopes will come from this review and these conversations. His response, simple.
Make sure something like this wouldn't ever happen again.
It's also important to note the police are still looking for Dudley's son, 20-year-old Chance Dudley. If you have seen him, you are asked to contact Springfield Police, but they do warn that he is believed to be armed and dangerous. Reporting live in the studio, Maria Wilson, Western Mass News.